this. Hi, everybody. Patrick Kirby here from Do Good Better Consulting. How are you today? I couldn't be better if I tried. And the reason is that we've got a fantastic episode for you today. With me is my wonderful friend, Nuket Hendricks. She is not only the executive director of the Homeward Animal Shelter up here in Fargo, North Dakota, but she is also the founder of She Leads Fearlessly. It is a woman's leadership coaching, and she's going to join us today, and we're going to talk about some things that you're probably not going to be comfortable with, and I'm excited to have you. Nuket, how are you?
I'm awesome. How are you, Patrick?
I always love seeing you, so I saw you at the beginning of the week, and now I get to see you at the end of the week. What a wonderful bookend indeed. So we're going to talk today about something that's not brought up very often, but it is the percentage of individuals who are the boots on the ground in the nonprofit industry are female, right? They're women. Yes. They're women leaders. They're emerging leaders. They are the type of individuals who are usually approaching men who are in business leaders and things. And you and I have talked about this extensively, which is why I'm so excited that you're here today with us, is to talk a little bit about embracing your own power as a female, as a person in general. I think this has a lot of crossover of sexist stuff. And it's an interesting topic that nobody talks about in the nonprofit industry. So it's a joy to have this particular conversation recorded and able to send out into the world for all to enjoy.
Thank you.
It's going to be fun. So, but before we get into that, the most interesting part is you. So I'd love to have you introduce yourself to the audience and kind of give a little background on who you are, how you got here, and then we're going to start there. How about that?
Sounds great.
Floor is yours.
Thank you. Since you already gave my credentials, I'm not going to go in there. But let me add on to that I'm not only an executive director and an executive leadership coach, but I'm a multicultural female leader who found herself in the upper Midwest in a leadership position. After being raised by a father who wanted nothing but his two daughters to be extremely strong, not afraid of anything, to be able to go after whatever they want, not let anything stand in their way, as long as it was ethical, compassionate, and loving, and go for their dreams. I was surrounded in that environment. What do you need? I got your back. Go for your dreams. I was surrounded with strong women. There was no reason for me to feel afraid to voice my opinions or be afraid to reach out for what I wanted. I was in my element. Strong woman, we supported each other, we helped each other. Yeah. And I had this misconception that it's like that everywhere. As a woman leader, you support each other, you raise each other up, you speak your mind. When you know something, you don't hide. All is well. Well, let me tell you. I even talked about this in the article that showed up in Fargo Inc. This month. In my first leadership position, when I gave an opinion with conviction because I believed what I was talking about and I knew what I was talking about, I got the invitation to meet with the vice president of the board of directors. And the reason for that was to be told, you are too strong for a woman. You need to bring it down. I know. You need to bring it down a notch. I'm like, wait a minute. I never know. There were degrees of strength and the women were allowed only this much of it. But here is the trick. And what happened was I was in a different environment. I had adopted this country as my homeland. Sure. I was already naturalized citizen. However, I was still away from my home in a different culture. I had developed this need to fit in. So I thought, well, maybe I will, settle down and not be strong. I will be not say anything I'm supposed to say and do, what they expect me to do. I did that for a while. I'm sure that got me a brownie point or two. But you know what? It explodes at the end because the more you continue to be someone you're not, the more you are trying to hide who you are, it's going to backfire. You can only do it so much. And so when I decided I'm done with this traditional stuff that is going on here, I'm going to embrace who I am, going to step into what I am, because this, and especially it was triggered with my father's passing, because it was like, he didn't raise me to be this woman.
No.
So I stepped into who I was before, and everything changed as a woman leader, especially in a nonprofit environment.
You know, it's
So
funny that you, yeah, this is really funny. So one of the things that you said, it's fascinating, is that, you know, you sort of take it down a notch. And I think in the nonprofit world, those in leadership positions who take it down a notch are always the ones who are scrapping and struggling, right? Because they're not out being audacious, and they're not pushing the envelope, and they're not engaging their donors with something interesting. They're always hiding either behind a desk, or they're hiding behind sort of the way we've always done it before sort of bit. Right. It's ironic that you've ended up sort of in the nonprofit industry, sort of from a professional career, where you have to be kind of outside of you have to do this. Because exactly. Nobody else is going to listen to your poor little story unless you're out being this gregarious sort of, I'm going to do it my way if you're not going to get it done. State isn't going to do it. Federal government isn't going to do it. Local crew's not going to do it, but you are. And I think that's exactly. That's a fun re-embracing of that sort of, I'm going to do it my own way and be, you know, whatever you think, I don't care.
But also there's one more thing we are forgetting. When we are miserable as leaders, guess what? Everybody else working with us are miserable as well. Especially, sure. Yes, especially nonprofit, like you said, the ratio of women working in the nonprofits was a lot higher. So I was surrounded with women who I was put in charge to lead. I was miserable. Everybody was miserable. Yes, we were creating success. There's no question, but we were miserable. Yeah. That didn't really sit well with me. That's not the kind of leader I wanted to be. Yeah. I wanted to be leader's leader. Yeah. I wanted to be who I am. So I can, you know, what I found at the end, Patrick, was that strength that I was trying to pull down was actually the container for compassion, for love, for empathy, for allowing others to be who they are and embrace them what they are. That strength was actually a positive. It was something that I should have and never had let it go. Yeah. Now I am truly enjoying leadership. Mm-hmm. I don't feel miserable because I look at my leadership as I am turning the policy set forth by my board of directors into a mission, and that strength allow me to do that. As I am turning that mission into service, then I can create a space for my young people working, emerging leaders, to step in and start leading, because that's what we leaders need to do. That's one of my biggest beef in the nonprofit industry. We are not letting other women lead enough, whether we do it as a woman or man, doesn't matter. And by the way, this is not about men against women. This is all of us working with our full potential, tapping into those untapped qualities that we are afraid to tap into. So I look at it as my leadership, turn the policy and the mission into service, and not allow, that's the wrong word, give the opportunity for other people in my organization to lead. Yeah,
I like that for a couple of reasons. One, and we kind of broached upon it in the top, but the way that you have defined sort of the woman's leadership coaching position, it's every, I mean, that might be your wheelhouse and the most relatable. Everything that we do as male leaders is just sort of being cognizant of some of these things and sort of embracing your own intuition on this is the right thing to do. And I need to, slough off kind of the, this disparate thing, inner politics that I got to go deal with. And I don't need to deal with this BS. What's it going to do? It's right. How is this going to affect me? Now, the interesting thing is I want to circle back to kind of your history, because I find this to be fascinating as sort of the, I'll refer to this as the old traditional, ignorant Midwestern American, right? So yes, you are multicultural, but you're also from Turkey.
Yes, I am.
Right. So on the surface, if you're just reading USA Today and you're just reading tweets from government leadership, I would imagine most people think of Turkey as an ass-backwards Middle Ages state that doesn't embrace females as leaders and uses them as second-class citizens. again, from my perspective, that's probably what it feels like to most people. So having you come out of or come here from that particular country with the mindset that like I'm a female and I don't really care about it, what everybody's thinking, that's I think shocking to some people.
I know. And let me give you a little bit of, or shine a light on that. Turkey, the Turkey I grew up in was a very, very secular country. Believe it or not, we had more women in colleges than we had men. And women were determined, women were ambitious, because it was a country that embraced women being successful and wanted to do everything that they can. Even the Ivy League, colleges, Turkey Ivy League colleges, which I went to, they were free. I didn't have to pay any tuition. The only thing I had to do is, pass a 3-level, test to get into the college. So they did everything that they can provide that opportunity for me. And like I said, my country was secular. If you had ambition, you were empowered. And I was lucky to have a father to do that. Not every woman was lucky, but that was my environment. Right. Everything changed in Turkey in 2002 when this new regime that is still in place came in and wanted to bring Islamic laws to govern the Turkey. Things are changing. Doesn't mean that you don't, we still have very strong women. We still have women who's going to grab everything, with their strength and do what needs to be done. But we also have that part where the woman feels they are being oppressed and they are being mistreated. So now we have more of that than the other, and there's a clash, and everybody's looking at the part where the woman does not resemble the woman that the Western mind would like to perceive as. So Turkey has changed a lot. The Turkey I came from is my Turkey where women just blossomed.
Interesting. Yep. See, again, I think we all learned something new today, because that's super interesting. Yes.
I want to tell you one more thing. More thing. I just have to tell you this. You know what? I never knew as a woman that I could make less money until I came to this country. I made just as much, if not more so, than a man in Turkey. I made more because I was bilingual. I didn't even understand that concept could be even rational. I thought it was a joke, but unfortunately isn't. Just a little anecdote.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's hilarious. Well, let's talk about that too. I think that's a really good transition piece into and kind of how we played off of this as an idea to chat was there is a majority of boots on the ground fundraisers and non-profiteers in this community that are predominantly female. Yes. They're the event planners, they're the fundraisers, they're the behind the scenes, they're the office, the backbone of the office. There's a limit to how far one can go without sort of stepping into a leadership role. What have you found sort of in your either coaching or your position as an executive director on the challenges that female leaders face in the nonprofit industry on sort of taking that next step or having equal conversations at the table from your perspective?
Okay. What I found is that the women who are not in an executive position or in a C-suite do not get enough opportunity to lead. Sure. I personally believe, doesn't matter whether you're a man or you're a woman, if you are going to lead, please lead to be an influential and leader and a change maker. That's what leadership is about. Leadership, I don't believe in followers. Every time I believe leader needs followers, I get this irritation. Because being a leader is not being a follower. Being a leader is creating an environment for other people to lead, whether they are men or a woman. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And create an environment is, look, I may be the ED only because I have the biggest responsibility there is. But doesn't mean that you cannot lead all the way from bottom to the top. Leading is creating influence, helping create change, things for the better. So do you need to have a title of ED to lead? I don't believe that. But at the same breath, I'm going to say they cannot do this unless they are created the environment. Doesn't mean it is seamless, but I would love to see all of us in that position to create the environment for everyone to be able to contribute to lead, to change, and be able to feel I might be not at that level, but I can still contribute to the organizational change. So
Right.
what I want to say is, as leaders, the change is going to start where we are. If we have the title of president, CEO, if we have the title of executive director, that's where the change is going to start. So the way I look at it is, we are either going to be a leader who's going to create change, influence, and create an environment for women or men, for that matter, for generations to come, or not. Which are we going to be?
Yeah.
I'd rather be that leader who helped other leader to step up rather than have followers.
So let's talk about that, because that's an interesting concept. So if you are not the executive director, but you have this sort of innate, like, I'm gonna become a leader, right?
Right.
How do you help your current leadership as somebody in nonprofit to not only establish yourself as that leader, to get that promotion or to get that responsibility? So how can individuals within an organization who don't have the C-suite title help leadership, or what things can they do to establish themselves as internal leaders?
Now, this is the disclaimer. It's not easy if the top level is not open to this. That's what I want to change. That's why I start from there. We need to open our eyes. And so, having said that, let's go back. You are at the very bottom and you want to create change. What you can do is, first and foremost, learn what you do inside and out. That's one thing. And the other thing is learn and get to know yourself. Mm-hmm. What is your non-negotiables? What is your values? Is this work is in your values? If it is, do that work to the best of your ability, and look and see what you can do to change the processes, the procedures, and what is being done to better the organization. And go, just demonstrate what can be done. Don't, complaining is easy. We are all doing it. But creating change starts with taking the initiative and being that change. Yeah. I know it's kind of cliche, but let's face it. Start from there. If you are a middle management, not the C-suite, what you can do is, even if you're not getting the support, give that support to the people that you are supervising. Yep. Create that environment for them to be able to be leaders. This is how we are going to start to change. And there comes a time we may have to say, I am not able to lead in this organization the way I'm leading it. Then move on. Yeah. I'm not going to sit there and say, try to change the culture. Just move on. But that's why I want to start from the top. Leaders, we need to create the environment for other young leaders to feel comfortable, to be able to bring their ideas, their thoughts, and their leadership skills to the table.
That's super. I love that. I spent I spent some years learning what not to do from terrible leadership within nonprofit organizations, and it's amazing that you can take that as a hey, I'm having a terrible time here, but I'm notching up things I will never do to my employees if I ever have some. And I did my best here, and this was the result, or I tried to do this, and this is what was told for me. And I'm going to mentally put together a list of things that I will vow in a leadership role that I'll never get. And I think people are afraid to, again, it doesn't matter, females or males, they're afraid to, but they're afraid to make a stand because they're worried about their job. Here's the best part about nonprofit industry. You find one anywhere. People are hiring left and right, and they're looking for quality individuals. And so they need you more than you need them, in the sense of like where a leadership role is, right?
Exactly. I also want to say one more thing.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not easy.
No.
But don't be afraid to test the waters. You know what I mean?
Yes.
See what you can do. Start with slow. Don't say, well, they will not let me. Don't assume. They may not. But if you are persistent and if you are approaching it correctly, they just might. Yes. So do not give up without trying 2-3 times. But if it looks like you are against a brick wall, then it's time to go someplace where they are going to open the door and say, wow, where have you been all our lives? So, no, honestly, it is the truth. Yeah. Test the waters. Don't give up. That's all I have to say.
And I think some people mentally put themselves in a box where they imagine themselves having a conversation with leadership, and then they automatically assume they're going to say no, and then they just stop. They don't bring it up at all. Where, yeah, so like the same thing with you were going to talk with donors, right? And somebody says, well, they'll never give me $1 million. We've ever asked them for $1 million? Well, no. I go, well, then how are you ever supposed to know? And I think that is on the individual who wants to be a leader but doesn't take that step. I think that step demonstrates that you were that demonstrates your ability to be the leader if you can take that risk. It's not even a risk, for God's sakes. It's just the action, the doing, the actual doing it.
Let me give you a trick sentence.
Yes.
Okay. When we are raising funds, he said no to $1 million. Then I asked the question, what is your yes? How can I make it to a yes?
Yeah.
So if your leader is saying you proposed something and the leader is saying no, then you ask the question, okay, this is a no at this point. What do I need to do to get a yes out of you?
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So you're showing determination. You are showing that you're going to need what needs to be done.
Yep.
And you are showing leadership. Yes, you can't scare the person in that leadership position.
Sure.
I'm not saying you can't. But you know what? That's their problem, not yours.
Yeah.
Because they are afraid.
I love it.
But use it. What can I do to make it a yes? And do
it.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of individuals, and I think we can even specifically talk about it in from a female standpoint too, is being in a rut, being in a I don't think I'm good enough to be in the position in which I am in rut. And I don't know if it's this probably has to do with every all sex, all whatever. It doesn't really matter, but it's that rut segment where I don't think I'm good enough, and I don't think I have the potential to do X, Y, and Z, and they can't get out of it. Like they can't they're constantly talking themselves down, which then reflects poorly on their own employees, and then it's the cycle. I know you've talked about it, to me in certain cases. How do you get out of this? How do you mentally first, and then get out of your own way sometimes that you're putting up your own blocks as a leader in the nonprofit industry?
Perfect. So number one thing is you are in a rut, you don't know how to get out, and you don't know any help. With the leaders that I worked with, number one thing was they were doing the job they were hired to do. They were not looking at the job where I can put my own mark on this job. That was one thing. And sometimes we take a job thinking that we like doing it, but we never measure it against our own values, our own standards, the way that we want to live our lives. So all of a sudden, we are constantly living in conflict with our own values. Mm-hmm. So number one thing I would say to people who feel in a rut, to look at the job and say, is this something inspires me? Are there, if the answer is no, okay, are there any parts of this job that inspires me? If the answer is again no, then the next question is, do I really need to be doing this job? Because it's not fair to you, it's not fair to the organization. But if there's a yes there somewhere, then I want people to look at that and say, okay, there's something obviously attracts me. How can I change things? How can I do things differently so that it becomes my job rather than a job description that I'm following to the letter? How can I leave my mark? We do need to ask that question. Right. And I was going to make a point and incompletely. Also, it is, I just remembered now.
I love it.
Because remember from, don't have job descriptions are things of the past. Mm-hmm. It is up to the leaders to realize you may hire somebody for data entry and they are doing a good enough job, but then you all of a sudden realize they are awesome in special events. Mm-hmm. I mean, they shine, they are brilliant. I mean, as a leader, come on, are you really going to keep them entering data when you can use them in a special events where they shine, they are happy, you have great results, and you can get somebody else to do the data entry? That's exactly what I'm talking about. Try some jobs in the organization too and see if you have gifts in there. And as leaders, we need to be mindful and watch very carefully who's shining where. We have our competence level, we have our excellence level, we have our genius zone, competence zone, excellence zone, genius zone. People who are in their genius zone, which you are one of those, they are, yes, they are just out of this world doing, they love what they are doing.
Yeah.
Excellence zone, they are good at what they are doing. Competence, they are just getting by. Just look at yourself where you are. And there's no reason why we cannot all be in our genius level.
Yeah.
All it takes is awareness and the question, what is it that I want? And how do I want to show up? Who do I want to be when I get to this desk or this office and this job?
Yeah. And I think at some point in time, I think people can get fused with that self-confidence as ego.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing that I've found in nonprofit leadership is that either a resistance because of ego or a resistance because they don't want to seem egocentric. And
right.
there's two distinct paths, I think, right? So one is it's not about you. It's about who you're bringing up as a leader, right?
Right.
But right, that's one. But then the other angle is own what you're great at. And it doesn't, like, it's not egocentric to say that you're the best at doing this.
Exactly.
That's what they hired you to do in the first place. How do you
exactly?
Right? So, like,
exactly.
but how do you navigate that? What are some tips that you can give to a leader in the nonprofit industry just to tell them, outside of just telling them get over it? But how can you be self-reflective, or what sort of tips can you do per week to just kind of, I don't know, get you out of this idea that you're either egocentric or you can't do it because of your ego? Okay,
here's the deal. Now, that's why I wanted to start from the top with the woman leaders who's been in that position, because the way we believe is, fish starts thinking from the top down. So if there's a problem, it's from top down. You know what I mean? If the organization is not going well, something is not happening right on top. Right. So number one, get over yourself. There's no question, because if you're not in that position, somebody else will. You closing it in and trying to hold on to that tight is not doing anybody any good. Number one. Number two, let's face it, the better your people are, the more successful you are, the more successful organization is, more successful you are. Sit down and look if everybody's having fun. Are they really, when you're sitting there and listening to your staff and somebody's talking about their job, they are so excited, they are in their genius zone. Yeah. But somebody is just watching the clock and cannot get away. They are not matched. Here's what I believe in. Find the right people for the right job, put them in the right boss, in the right seat, give them the job, but for God's sake, give them the authority to do the job and then get the hell out of their way. Yeah. That's all I have to say. Because if we are giving them the authority to do their job, they are going to also make mistakes. That's okay. So did you. You didn't come to the top level without making any mistakes, right? But be there, have their back, so that they are not afraid to make mistakes. Because if your staff starts being afraid to make mistakes, that means they are afraid of you. But if they doesn't mean that you can make all the mistakes, be careful. But they need to know that you will be there for them even if there is a mistake. Yeah. Yeah. Most important thing is that eventually you are going to leave that organization. Wouldn't it be nice that if organization still functions after you leave? And here's how I measure if I'm doing the right thing. Whether I'm in the office or not, the shelter functions. Nothing stops except my own job. Everybody knows their job. Everything gets done. Animals are taken care of. Animals are adopted. So as a leader, stop and look. Is that happening? Or everybody are waiting for you to tell them what to do? If that's the case, you're not doing something right. Now start with that. Yeah. Well, and that also puts so much pressure on you if you don't let it go, right? You mentioned, you said something, as you're holding it on, like for desperate holding on, that's not healthy for you. Because now all of a sudden the entire weight of the world is on this because you can't give out a decision. And then because you can't make a decision, you're now stressing out about it and everybody else just wants to help. And you as a leader can't get over this fact that you can just let it go and that everything's going to be fine. Because again, I think that has to do with if I let it go, then I don't get credit for it. And here's the best part about being a leader. You don't care. It doesn't matter. You shouldn't.
Does it get done? Yep. Yeah, great. Exactly. You win.
Exactly. This is not about us looking good
No.
as one person. This is us doing our work and translating the mission into service as an organization. I know it's not hard. It's not easy to do. I get that. But the fact of the matter is, if everybody has to look at you to do their work, that is recipe for disaster
Yes.
for everyone involved.
Ironically, it's not like feeling that it's not about you, and that it's, you letting go reflects so much more positively on it being you, because you made those decisions. So you become a more the perceived value of you as a leader grows exponentially the less that you hold on to, because you're giving and empowering everybody in your office.
Right.
Or volunteers. Yeah.
Right. For that matter, every time I hear a leader in a position of, authority say, well, nothing gets done unless I'm there, I'm thinking to myself,
great.
I wonder what you are doing, not doing that, you feel that way, because I don't.
No.
I know certain leaders don't, because they know everything is getting done. So that's why we need to start have the conversation at the leadership level, and then also encourage the young people, emerging leaders, not to be afraid. Just identify those fears and work with them, and do not be afraid to bring out your full potential to the table.
Yes.
Sometimes the answer is going to be no. Sometimes you're going to be told, just like I was, well, bring it down a notch. That's okay. Just persevere. If that's what you really want.
I know. That's the brilliant part. Well, here's the funny part.
Yes.
We're already out of time. That's how
I know.
fast that went. Isn't that ridiculous? Okay, yes. But here's the deal. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, they want to connect, they want to learn more about what you do for women's leadership coaching, and they want to live fearlessly too, right?
All right.
How on earth do they get a hold of you? And go.
Okay, my website is sheleadsfearlessly.com, but the easiest way to get a hold of me is 701-238-7227. Send me a text, call me, let's have a chat.
I love it. We're going to post all that information in the comments below, of course.
Thank you.
Nuket, you're the absolute best. I love talking.
As you are, Patrick.
It's so fun. I am so glad we had this conversation. It's a great starting point to kind of begin to throw back the curtain of actually being able to talk about these things in the nonprofit industry, which they don't. And I love it. So
thank you for opening this conversation, starting this conversation.
Bye,
my friend.
Love it. Have a great day. We'll see you guys later. And again, like in the comments and share as you wish. Ask any questions below. We'll continue the conversation with Nuket Hendricks. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.